there, this is Dr. Karen Sullivan, board certified neuropsychologist here with I Care for Your Brain. We get together about once a week to talk about science-based education in brain health. We want to empower you with high quality information so you can be your very best advocate. Today we're going to talk about the fear of dementia, which too often translates for people into the fear of losing ourselves. We have equated our memories with our very self. And I want to kind of take us on a philosophical consideration of that belief, because it's that belief that scares so many of us. The vast majority of these so-called brain health products that are on the market, the supplements that I'm always on here telling you are junk and no good, how they make their billions of dollars in sales is through anxiety. This is what their marketers do. They try to pathologize normal brain-related changes like, why did I go into the room? Or, oh, I can't remember that acquaintance's name. They love you to believe that that is the tip of the iceberg in terms of losing yourself, losing your memory. And so these solutions, which we know are too good to be true, I wish that they had as much power as they claim they do to reverse dementia, to truly treat things like Alzheimer's disease, but unfortunately we're just not there yet. And so what they're really doing is capitalizing on this widespread fear of dementia. So there have been many great studies that have come out from AARP asking older adults, which disease do you fear most as you age? And 1% said diabetes, 4% said a heart condition, 10% said cancer, and the overwhelming majority, over 70% of people, said that it was dementia. In another poll, they asked older adults, how would you prefer to die if you were able to say, here's my cause of death? And they asked people, you could lose the use of all your limbs. You could be buried alive. You could be bitten to death by poisonous snakes. You could be in another 9/11 type terrorist attack, or you could die from Alzheimer's disease. And the vast majority of them said, I'll take anything but the Alzheimer's disease. So I think it's really important that we figure out why this is such a feared set of conditions. So people who study this, brain philosophers, say that it is based in a lot of stereotypes and stigma and fear about care. So it's not so much what actually happens when brain cells degenerate. It's what is going to happen to me in my care environment or my social environment. And if you think about things people don't want to happen to them as they get older, how many of you feel that you do not want to go into a nursing home, for example? So I've had many patients come to me over the years and say, you know, in our wedding vows, my husband said to me, no matter what happens in our marriage, I will tolerate anything, but do not put me in a home. And so it turns out this is a big part of it. If we actually knew in our bones that we were going to be well respected, treated with kindness, that our care environment would match our care needs, and that we were going to be loved and valued, we don't think people would fear dementia as much. And this is all very relevant right now because we are just starting a massive public health crisis with so many people around the globe set to develop dementia in the next 5 to 20 years that we really need to do something about this. So when we think about stigma, it's great to actually just ask older adults. So what would it mean to you if you were diagnosed with dementia? So 62% of older adults said they feel that their life would be over. Just a diagnosis, right? So that's going to keep people from coming in and getting comprehensive evaluations that will lead to the early diagnosis. And that's really important now because we have our first disease-modifying drugs for Alzheimer's. We actually have amyloid infusions that will slow down the actual pathophysiological progression of Alzheimer's disease. They're not perfect. They're not even really that great right now, and they do have a lot of risks, but we've never had anything like this, and it's exciting. And we do think this is the beginning of the first step in getting a cure. But 62% of people say just the diagnosis alone, not the cognitive impairment, not the functional impairment, not stopping driving, just a diagnosis would mean that my life is over. Nearly 1 in 4 people predicted if they were to be diagnosed with dementia, that it would mean they would instantly have to stop going out on a walk by themselves. So just imagine the immediate thought of your independence, poof, being gone in an instant, your ability to have any type of alone time, any type of privacy out in the world, out in nature. 50% of people said that they would have to immediately stop driving and worried that other people would think they were, quote, crazy. So this is telling us we still are confusing brain health diseases with psychiatric illness, with mental illness. And really, that isn't even the worst of it, because the truth is mental illness is also a brain disease. So we're still really needing to show a lot more education in our general knowledge of mental health, physical health, brain health, and certainly a lot more compassion and understanding. 60% of people, this one really got me, it's actually 68% of people said, I wouldn't be the same person that I am today if I were to be diagnosed with dementia. And think about that from just a basic identity, self-esteem perspective. That is really psychologically scary, to feel like you wouldn't even know who you are and other people would not recognize you as the same person that you have been your whole life. So unfortunately, what's happens as a consequence of these beliefs and the stigma is that people who are perceived as having significant cognitive impairment are often ignored. They are often objectified. And what I mean by that is it's as if their basic human needs as a person ceases to exist. Just because the person can't make memories, it's almost as if we start to believe they're not having genuine, deep psychological internal experiences. And that is just not the case. Perhaps they lose access to language and they can't tell us in the same way that they did before. But the truth is, even until the dying day of somebody with dementia, there is still a human spirit inside that needs to be tended to and really needs to be sought after with skill. That is really what I'm coming to the conclusion of, is that we have a massive skill deficit in the world. We just don't know what to do. We don't know what to say to be helpful. We don't know how it is we should approach people with dementia. And I think the truth is, a lot of times our hearts are in the right place, but we don't know. We don't want to make it worse. We just need instruction. And so this is why where my brain is going in the next year of my career is really to focus on equipping communities with the skills of how to build relationship. And I'm learning more and more about what different people in the world have developed and what they're offering. And through my current opportunity, through the Foundation of First Health here in Pinehurst, North Carolina, I am trying to think about how to package all of these things together and disseminate them in the community. So I have been able to get 60 community leaders here in Moore County, North Carolina, to volunteer to spend the year with me to learn how to do this. So we have people from the banks here, the hospital, churches, golf communities, people who've been care partners, people who are themselves living and thriving with dementia. We are going to be meeting once a month starting next month. We've already gone through some incredible training with the absolute living legend of dementia care, Teepa Snow. And we have incredible funding and support from the Foundation of First Health to go forth into the world for the next year and figure out how to reduce the stigma and these stereotypes. And part of what we have to do is improve moderate to severe impaired care for dementia. We've got to get into nursing homes and memory cares and make them a place where people actually wouldn't dread going. And I think it's so far from what we've internalized as being the reality of these places. It's hard to imagine, but it's possible. What if this was actually a time of life that you just knew you were going to be so well taken care of, that people actually thought, you know what, I've worked really hard my whole life. Life is hard. What happens if I was able to get to that point and I knew I would be given A+ care? I knew that I would be in a community of people who cared about what was important to me and every minute of the day tried to give me experiences that made me feel like me and that I was a part of a community and that I was a valued contributor to that community. That is really the goal. And I'm really hoping that in the next year, just in my little slice of the world, I can provide a microcosm of a prototype, of an example of how we can do this more. So what people really worry about when they get diagnosed with dementia is the social piece. It's what they call the social death, that other people are not going to want to be around them. Even going back to my undergraduate honors thesis, I got people in the room who had just been diagnosed with dementia and asked them, what do you want doctors to know about your experience? And what they told me was, don't leave me behind. I asked them, what do you want your family to know? Don't leave me behind. The same thing was, don't leave me behind in conversation. Don't stop looking at me. Don't stop assuming that I can understand and feel what's going on. So we have this massive social piece of the dementia fear. And don't we really believe that that is actually within our control? So the thoughts I'm having these days is maybe the experience of dementia is not just about the brain disease, that it also really is a social disease. And I find that to be both kind of heartbreaking and actually hopeful. So it's heartbreaking that as human beings, we would, not knowingly, but the truth is, once you do know, you do have a responsibility to do better. But without knowing, we have really objectified and alienated older adults with cognitive issues. Because don't forget, they get 2 strikes against them then. We have ageism, that is very alive and well. And then we really have capableism. So if you're an older adult and you're deemed to be not capable, your value really goes down, unfortunately, in many care settings. Not all, and we've never lived in a time that is more progressive than now. And I'm learning every day about incredible, innovative, super cool, super awesome programs that are happening all around the world. And I'm trying to get on Zooms with as many of these leaders as possible and say, how can I include what you're doing in my project here? Because we really have a special community here and a lot of people want to get involved. We've got 10 memory cares, 183 people live in them. We are really going to put a lot of resources in the next year to focusing on improving their care. So, quick reminder before we go, our brains are wired for social connection. Very, very important theme that I hope you've gotten from me, if you've been a follower of I Care for Your Brain for these last 7 years, is that there are many layers and contributions to brain health challenges. It's not just what's happening at the level of the brain. There's psychological contributors, there's social contributors, there's financial contributors. So let's identify the layers and then do something about it. I don't know what the cure is for Alzheimer's, but what I can tell you is I think I can do something significant to reduce that social death that happens. And boy, do I feel like that is my responsibility now that I know better. So I hope by sharing these thoughts with you today, you have a fire lit inside yourself to say, wow, this is actually kind of hopeful. This is actually kind of amazing. Maybe we can change what we think of as the experience of Alzheimer's. And I'm not here to say that it is a walk in the park, that it's anything you would necessarily choose. But the question I'm really sitting with and meditating on and praying about is it actually coming from a different source than just brain health? And I think the truth is yes. I think there is this social other component to it. So I hope you'll take this journey with me in the next year and learn alongside me as I share what I'm learning. And let me know in the comments how you're feeling about the future of dementia care. Do you think it's all hopeless? Where are you finding any glimmers of hope? And maybe it's even in this conversation today. Maybe you never really knew those statistics. You never really thought about it this way. Maybe there's something in it. Maybe you were guided to listen to me today for a very special reason. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.